Okay. Oh, it's 1 minute past 10. I'm a minute late. Apologies. Okay, so as I said in the little preamble leading up to this, it's going to be more static stretches today. So not really any flows. It's going to be more pushing our, essentially pushing the joint to the end of its comfortable range of motion and just sitting there until your muscle fibers relax. The muscle elongates a little bit further, and then we're just going to sit, fall a little bit deeper into the stretch. So it's going to be a lot slower. Morning, Julie. So that being said, it doesn't mean it's going to be any less of a workout, because when you're holding yourself in that position, in order so that you don't fall too far into it, you're going to have to use your core to support yourself, but it's going to be less functional, dynamic, flowy movement. Anyway, let's get started. So we're going to be working on lengthening hamstrings, improving your range of motion at the hip joint and at the shoulder joint today. So this is going to have carryovers to deadlifts, to comfortably being into the bottom of a squat with your hip mobility. Really helpful for front rack with lat mobility, shoulder mobility. Lots of overhead press movements require a lot of stability at the shoulder joint. So yeah, I'll stop talking and we'll just go, because there's kind of a lot to get done today. If you're doing this with me now, you want to try and sit in the stretches for as long as possible. So if you can, once it is finished, just go back and then pick 1 or 2 of those holds that you really struggled with and sit in them for the longest, because you're going to develop more if you sit in the stretch for a longer time. So let's start as ever with walkouts. I'm just going to put my coffee down. So keeping your legs straight, you're going to hinge at the hip, feel that stretch in your hamstrings, plant your hands, walk right the way out into a plank, drop your heels down towards the floor as you raise your tailbone in the air, try and keep your legs as straight as you can. You should feel that tension up the back of your legs. So we'll have 4 or 5 of these. This is the flowiest kind of move that we're going to do today. Everything else is going to be very much static. Really try and drop your heels towards the floor. With mobility, unfortunately, there's not really anywhere to hide. You have to sit in that discomfort, sit in that pain. Development happens. It's kind of inescapable, this one. So let's have 1 more of those walkouts, and then you're going to come right the way to the top of the move. I'm just going to move this up slightly so you can see me. Okay. So at the top here, keeping your legs straight, we're going to do a forward fold, and you're just going to kind of hang out at the bottom of the forward fold for a little bit. So you're going to tuck your chin, chin into your chest. You're then going to roll your shoulders forward, and vertebrae by vertebrae, you're going to drop over and down. So you're really trying to increase the space between the vertebrae in your spine. Possible. As you hinge over like a string of pearls, dropping off slowly down. There's a lot of tension in my lower back, so I find it very hard to roll those one at a time. Try and keep your legs straight. Your feet should be about hip distance apart, should have said that at the beginning. And just let the weight of your shoulders, the weight of your arms slowly bring your chest closer to your knees. So that's where I start to feel tension here. My legs want to bend. We're just going to sit there. Sway slightly from side to side if you need to. Just feel the pressure that gravity is applying to your torso, driving you down. Making sure that those legs stay as straight as possible. And then you take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, you're just going to drop another centimetre. So if we sit here for about 30 seconds, your muscles should start to relax. That stretch reflex should start to ebb away. It should start to feel more comfortable. And I'm afraid as soon as it feels comfortable, deep breath in, drop a little bit lower. Back to that, just sort of like on the edge of discomfort. Try and keep those legs straight. If you start to shake, then you've gone too far. We're looking for comfort, but not pain at this point. So staying in that. Swaying slightly from side to side if you need to have something to distract yourself. We're going to do 1 more really deep breath in. As you breathe out, drop a little bit further. Feel the weight of your torso, that's the thing that's driving you down. And then when you're ready, Slowly, you're going to stack vertebrae by vertebrae. Stack your spine back on top of your hips. Curling up nice and slowly. Squeezing your glutes at the top. Unfurl your shoulders. Head straight ahead. Woo. So you should feel that stretch right the way up your hamstrings. I'm going to do that, what time is it? I'm very that ideally we do that 2 or 3 times, and each time you do it, as you sit at the bottom, feel that tension pick up as you come a little bit further, and then relax into it, let it ebb off. Deep breath in. As you breathe out, you're going to fall a little bit lower. So ideally I'd like to do that 2 or 3 times. I'm just going to do it the once for today. If you or if that's something that you felt a lot of resistance to, repeat it again at the end. Right, second move, we're going to do a downward dog. So it's the same muscle group. So you're going to come into a plank. Your shoulders are directly over your wrists. From here, tailbone comes up in the air. You drop your heels down towards the floor. So the difference there is my calves are contracted. Relax them so your heels come towards the floor. Drive your hands so they're directly above your head. So you see there's a straight line between my tailbone, my shoulder, and my wrist. Now your legs are going to want to bend like this. Keep them as straight as you can. But we're going to prioritise a straight line between wrist, shoulder, and tailbone over straight legs here. If you drop your heels towards the floor, you should feel that tension pick up right the way down the back of your legs. And you can try and drive your chest towards your knees. Keep that tailbone high in the air. So that tension's starting to ease off now, so what I'm going to do is try and straighten my legs ever so slightly. That much of a difference. Minute corrections, and then it starts to ebb off again. Keeping those arms directly overhead, dropping those heels to the floor. And last one, you're going to lift up through your tailbone, straighten your arms, try and straighten your legs slightly, drop your heels to the floor. Last 10 seconds here. Drive those heels towards the floor. And slowly float your head back between your hands. Woo! I'll flatten that one really, really hard because my hamstrings are super tight. That's a really good one to sit in for shoulder endurance as well. But if you have trouble staying low in the forward fold, your downward dog, you can apply more pressure with your arms. If you drive your hands over your head, it forces you a bit deeper into that stretch. So if you have a problem sitting in that discomfort, you can almost force yourself to sit into it a little bit better. We're going to do a little bit of hip mobilization before we go into the froggy stretch, just because I don't want you to go in completely cold. So let's start with a stance slightly wider than hip distance apart. We're going to come down to a bottom of a squat, and from here, apply pressure outwards with your elbows, keeping your chest nice and tall. So from the side, it looks like that. I would ideally like my back to be a little bit straighter, but that will come with getting warmed up. So keeping your shoulders driven down behind you, we don't want to see you arch like this. Try and keep that back straight. If it means that you're up here, absolutely fine. Just come as low as you can. That external pressure on your knees is going to open your hips up. Try and use the side of your glute. That contraction will drive your knee outwards. That's what we're looking for, to really open your hips up. So sit into the bottom of it, apply that pressure to the inside of your knees, externally, and then you're going to try and lift your toes off the floor. What that'll do will rock your body forward. So from here, I'm now lifting my toes off the floor, and that will rock your body forward. So what we're doing there is trying to flex your foot, so bring your toes towards your shins. Try and keep that back nice and straight. Really try and relax your hips. There's a lot going on in this one. A few more seconds here before we go into our froggy stretch. Keep lifting those toes off, keep your spine straight. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. There's my quads. Okay, frog stretch. We've done it in every single one of these. It is super helpful for hip health, hip mobility. So we're going to start If you imagine you're on your mat the correct way, you're going to bring your knees to the outside of the mat and your toes are touching behind you. From here, you're going to drop your chest to the floor and sink your bum back towards your heels. This should be pretty doable. So we're just going to practice this position. I want you to drive your chest into the floor. Not your chin, not your shoulders, not your arms, but you lead with your chest. What that means is your back stays nice and straight. If you try and get your head to the floor, we'll end up here. It needs to be that elongated spine, chest driven to the floor. And let the weight of your torso drive your chest. You get a good stretch in your lats if you have your arms overhead. If you want them bent for support, that's absolutely fine as well. I'm just going to sit here for a moment. And then using the strength in your arms, you're going to pull yourself up with your elbows, up with your hands. We are now going to move your toes from touching behind you to directly behind your knees. What this does is, it intensifies the stretch. And you should feel this pick up a lot more tension across the front of your hips. I'm going to double this mat over because it hurts my knees. Okay, so back into that pose. Knees out, toes directly behind your knees now. This should intensify the stretch. You should be able to get your bum as far back. We're now going to drop your chest to the floor and slip backwards into it. You want to let the weight of your hips, the weight of your pelvic girdle drive your hips backwards and down. Trying to keep your chest as close to the floor as possible. We're going to sit here for another moment, just taking some deep breaths. I'm just going to come from the side so you can see what I'm doing. Just try and actively relax your hips to let your hips come closer to the floor. We're going to take a big breath in. As you breathe out, relax your muscles and melt into the pose. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rock up onto your elbows, and then up onto your hands. So we're going to do exactly the same. You're going to bring your knees further out. Again, this intensifies the stretch, and it should be tougher to do. So I'm going to move my mat slightly, so I have a bigger space. Okay, bring your knees a little bit further out. Toes stay directly behind your knees, so your toes will have to come out as well. This is the last time we're going to do this one before we move on. If you're doing this at a later time, I'd like 3, 4, maybe even 5 of these before we move on. So from here, chest to the floor, supporting your body weight, and then slide back as far as you can. So I can come nowhere near as far back this time because my knees are way further apart. Try and drop that chest to the floor if you can. We're actively thinking about relaxing the front. If you can feel that stretch reflex kind of ebb off, deep breath in as you breathe out. Scoot a little bit further back, feel that tension pick back up again. Mounting your chest towards the floor. 10 more seconds here. 3, 2, and 1. Whew. I find that one so tough. So again, because you're kind of being the judge of how intense you make that stretch, how far you push yourself, as I said, if you start to shake and you start to feel pain, you've gone too far and you're not going to see any development in the lengthening of the muscle or any development in the range of motion at the joint. Because as soon as you start to shake, that's your body sort of partially contracting the muscle and tensing up against the stretch. You want to be just uncomfortable enough that you can, if you really try, that will allow your muscle fibers to lengthen. Don't push it too far and tense up against it. There's very little point in sitting in that kind of amount of pain. Okay, we are now going to test box split. What time are we on? That's good timing, that'll do. Okay. Forward fold, I'm going to get you to do this. We're going to come to the bottom, sit in it for a moment, come back up. Come to the bottom, sit in it for a moment, come back up. So I'm going to get you to start a little bit wider than hip distance apart. You're going to pop down, just drape your upper body down towards the floor, keeping your legs straight. Sit there for 4 seconds and come back up. We're going to elongate the amount of time that we spend at the bottom as our legs get wider. You're going to take a pace out. Toes should be facing sort of at the lowest pose that we do, maybe about 45 degrees, but no wider than that. So we're going to come a little bit wider, slowly drop down. You'll feel the stretch change. So you'll feel the muscles that are being lengthened here change slightly as your stance changes. 3, 2, 1, use the power of your glutes to contract to drive you back up. Come a little bit wider, you can see where this is going. So if we were doing this, if we had all the time in the world, I would say 8 different moves until you get to your absolute maximum, and then 8 on the way back in as well. We're going to do maybe 4 or 5 for this one. So this is, what, 3? Slowly hinge over, keeping those legs straight. If you can start to touch the floor, then you can bend your arms. So I'm at a point now where, keeping my back relatively straight, I can tap the floor, so start to bend your arms and intensify that stretch even further. Slowly back up, we're going to come a little bit wider again. So we've got 2 more left, so this and then your next one will be your maximum capacity. We're going to slowly drop down. If you can now get onto your forearms, that's fab. Just going to sit here for another moment. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so now we're coming into your widest pose, so come right the way out. I'm going to do it this way on the mat. I'm going to sit in this one for a little bit longer. So this should be maximum capacity now. Try and relax the front of your hips like we did in that froggy stretch. There should be discomfort but not pain. Relaxing those hips if you can. Push your hips backwards. That intensifies the stretch further. Ten more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. You're going to bring your feet in ever so slightly, and we'll sit here again. Three, 2, 1. Bring them in again. Forward fold. Slowly let the weight of your torso drive you down. This should be easier on the way back. Slowly back up. 2 more to go. A little wider than hip distance. Fold over, sit at the bottom of it. So I couldn't come that low the first time. Slowly back up, and last one, just about hip distance apart. Forward fold. And back up. Woo. Okay, so those walkouts that we did to start with to warm up, I had to bend my legs to get to the floor. Now I've lengthened my hamstrings enough that I don't need to. I can do walkouts with legs. So you can see the difference that sitting in the bottom of that stretch makes to lengthening your muscles. Definitely short term, and if you keep doing this, you'll see long term as well. Okay, we are going to do a little bit of upper body, and then we're going to stretch hip. Okay, if you've got got a sofa, this one, a sofa or a bench with you, near you, around you, this is going to be a little bit easier. I'm just going to change the camera angle. Okay, the idea for this one is, you're going to have your elbows on a sofa in front of you, arms bent at 90 degrees, and you're going to try and drop your chest down and drop your head through. Keeping your arms are going to want to collapse in, keep them separate, keep your forearms. You should feel this stretch down your lats. So we're just going to stand here for a moment. If you've got something you can, ideally, if you've got like, I'd use an empty bar, but something you can hold on to ensure that you're not going to internally rotate, like a broom or something, would be perfect. So, elbows on the sofa, and you're going to, as a unit, move your elbows up as your chest drops through, and feel that stretch pick up right the way down your lats. This is really good for helping your front rack mobility. Take a deep breath in, breathe right the way into your belly, and as you breathe out, melt a little bit lower into this stretch. To come inwards and try and externally rotate as you drop your chest through. If you haven't got a sofa to do this one, you can pop your elbows together and your hands together and drive your elbows up, completely glued together as a unit, and you should feel a similar stretch along your lats, but you'll feel it more in your traps as well for this one. So if you have a bench, we're just going to sit in this position, applying pressure in this plane, driving your arms up. Everyone else should be sat still in the bottom of this hold. Last few seconds here. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly drive your elbows into the bench, into the sofa to pull yourself back up and out. We are then going to come into a chest stretch. I'm going to change the angle again. So, feet flat on the floor, your toes are facing the bottom of your mat, your fingertips are facing the top of your mat. So that you can already feel that stretch in your chest as soon as you bring your fingers behind you. You're going to try and backwards, away from your ears and down. So knit them together behind you and drive them down. Keep that, ensure that your chest stays puffed out right the way through. From here, you're going to shuffle your bum forwards, feel that stretch intensify in your chest, and creep your fingertips backwards, ensuring as you do that your shoulders don't collapse forward, but you keep that chest and out. You should feel this stretch across the front of your shoulders and across your chest. If you want to intensify it but don't feel that you have the mobility to creep your fingers back, walk your bum forward slightly. Keeping your chest driven upwards. We're going to sit here for another 10 seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Walk your bum back slightly, walk your fingertips back towards you. We're going to come into that lat stretch one more time. We're going to do each of these once more. Elbows on the bench. And drop. Chest down towards the floor. Try and relax your shoulders. More seconds here. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly come out of that stretch, and last one for the chest stretch. Toes facing forward, fingertips facing back. Driving your chest out, shoulders are pinned back behind you. Especially with this one, it's about the quality of the stretch, not about how far you can go. If you're keeping that correct posture, so your chest is driven out, you should feel this stretch without really having to move your fingertips back too much. Last 10. Three, two, and one. Your shoulders should feel a lot more mobile, have a bigger range of motion, and a more comfortable range of motion at the shoulder having done that. Back to hip flexors. Oh, the time has flown. We've only got technically 3 minutes left. Okay, I'm going to show you these and you're going to do these in your own time then. The stretch that I'm going to give you for your hip flexors is a simple, we're going to come down into a lunge. So you see how both of my legs are bent at 90 degrees. My hips are directly over the knee of that back leg. 90-degree bend in the front leg. From here, you're going to tuck your tailbone underneath you. Now, I don't know how many times I say this a week, but it is a lot. Belly button is pulled towards the wall behind you. You're tipping your hips. You're almost tipping your hips back up on you. So squeeze your glutes and tip those hips backwards. If your hands are on your hips, like this, your thumb would go down and your fingertips would come up. So it's that movement there that we're looking for. So, in your lunge, and then squeeze there. As soon as you do that, it should pick up tension on the hip flexor here. From there, you're going to squeeze your heel down and back towards you, and squeeze your knee down and forwards. You're squeezing almost like a scissors motion as you pinch the floor here, keeping that tailbone tucked under. You should really feel that stretch on the front of the leg, the leg with the knee touching the floor. A lot of words. Squeezing and relax. As you relax, you're going to fall lower into that lunge. And making sure your tailbone is still tucked under, you're going to squeeze again. So this, I'm not squeezing, here I am squeezing. You cannot see any difference, so this is going to be a choice that you make to actively squeeze. 3, 1, relax. We're going to drop down a little bit further, and last time, squeeze. As I say, you can't see any difference, so it's got to be a choice that you make. 3, 2, and 1. Fabulous. We're going to do the other side before I show you what you're going to do for your finisher. So 90-degree bend in both your legs. Tailbone is tucked under and squeeze. You should really feel that tension pick up across the front of your hips of the leg with the knee touching the floor. Making that scissors motion as they squeeze together. 3, 2, 1. Rock down a little bit lower. Tailbone is still tucked under. Pick that tension up again. 3, 2, 1. Drop a little bit lower for this last one. And squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Woo. So you should really the tension across the front of your hips there as you're stretching out those hip flexors. Now, we are out of time, technically speaking, but I would like you to try. I'm going to sign off in a sec, but I would like you to have a go at just seeing how far you can come down. Essentially a splits movement. Saying that scares people off. I'm not expecting people to just get right the way down. They're like, that would be amazing, but I just want you to come as far as you can in a controlled manner with both of your legs straight. If that's there, absolutely fine. What that does is you're stretching your hamstring and your hip flexor at the same time. So it's a really effective, dynamic way to stretch. Also, you have to involve a lot of core stability in order to be able to steady yourself in that compromised position. So you're just going to come down as low as you can. So Both those legs straight. Hold for 30 seconds, drop your knee back to the floor. I'd like 2 on each side. Then the last thing that you're going to do is sit in essentially a box split. So with your legs out as far as you can, with your feet flexed towards the ceiling. I'm going to move that camera so you can see me. So once you've done your splits trials, and if you could film it, that would be wonderful, because I enjoy seeing people wobbling, falling over. You're guaranteed to do it the first time, doesn't matter, it's part of it. Legs as wide open as you can. If that's here, absolutely fine, doesn't matter. You're going to come as wide as you can. From here, keeping your shoulders back and down, your chest nice and tall. You're going to creep your hands out in front of you. So if we're not arched over like this, I can get quite far like that, keeping your back straight. And you should feel your hip flexors fire as you pull your chest towards the floor. We're then going to put one hand on one foot, and you're going to reach over that way. Feel that stretch down your lats. Hold there for 30 seconds, back to the middle, back to the other side, hold for 30 seconds. So that splits with your right leg leading for 30 seconds, left leg leading for 30 seconds, right leg for 30, left leg for 30. Then you're going to sit in your box splits, crawling down to the middle as far as you can for 30 seconds, left for 30 seconds, right for 30 seconds. Now I've walked you through all of the mobilization drills and all of the stretches that are going to help you be able to do those last moves as well as you can. If you went in and did these completely cold, I promise there would be way less movement in all of them. So remember what I said about sitting in that discomfort, especially with the splits and when you're crawling your fingers forward. Don't come to a point it's pain, but it just should be uncomfortable enough that you can just sort of relax your muscles. It's relaxing your muscles in that lengthened position that is going to actually stretch them. Off you go. I'm trusting that you're all going to do this. So right leg for 30 seconds, left leg for 30 seconds, right leg for 30, left leg for 30. Box splits, reach into the middle for 30, reach to one side for 30, reach to the other for 30. Well done. I will see you, when will I see you? I will see you tomorrow for core, which is going to be fun. And then I'll see you on Thursday for more mobility, a lot more flowy, a lot less sitting in awful discomfort and painful positions. Well done for today. I will see you then. Bye-bye.